Greetings Earthlings, welcome back to CodeWithSrini. This lecture will primarily be talking about passing data between two non-related components. Okay, so in the previous lecture we already seen how our output property binding works, like passing a data from one component to the parent component. But in this case, here we cannot use output property binding to pass data because the data has to be shared to another component inside app component. Basically, the data has to be shared to another component. In that we managed to pass data from child component login to a parent component app component. Okay, but here we cannot use output property binding function to pass data because the data has to be shared to another component inside the app component. Basically, the data sharing will be between the siblings. Okay, so when I say siblings, we're gonna isolate this from the app component into a separate component called navbar. Okay, so we're going to move this piece of code into a navbar, and ideally the navbar and login will be a sibling components. Okay, so let's warm up our application and start building it. We already have all the necessary ingredients. Okay, firstly let's create a new component called navbar. I'm gonna go to the terminal and then let's clear this up. ng-gc navbar. So ng generate component, and we're gonna create a navbar. So once that's done, our navbar code is ready. Let's go ahead straight into the navbar HTML, and what I'm gonna do is go to the app component HTML and pick this out. Okay, put them inside our navbar component HTML. Right, so the navbar is gone. Now we need to include that in our app component, which is a app-navbar. Okay, so I'm gonna create some information here. Now this is app component. This is app component, and it should be it is a parent component, and this is a navbar child component, and obviously our login, this is a login child component. Okay, so this component and this component are siblings. Earlier we have seen passing data to our parent component, but now we're going to pass data from a sibling to another sibling. Okay, all right, so we copied our navbar component. Now let's go to the login service. Have we created a service? Okay, looks like we need to create a login service. So let's go to ng-gc. I'm gonna just close this up. ng-gs login/login. So we created a login service inside our login folder, so it's inside, and create a field in a class called $is_logged_in equals new EventEmitter, part of the Angular core. So once you've done that, automatically adds it to our on top of our page or class. Okay, and now we're gonna create a method called login, and in that let's just do a console login service. Right, okay, so this login method is from the login service, and once you click the login button here, it should be called up. This console should display in our console. Okay, and let's go to our component. Let's give it as private service login service. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just comment everything out for now, and then this .service.login to check if the login is working. Okay, so far we can successfully capture the login event into a login service, which comes right over here to this login method. Okay, the next piece of information is that we need to add the user details. Okay, so it will be logged in event args. We're gonna set the type to logged in event args, which is we already defined it in the interface in our login component. Okay, so let's save that, and we're going to set the user like this dot user. Oh no, this dot user equals, obviously this will be coming from an API standpoint. Now this is just a mock data, let's not worry much about that. User type, this dot user dot role as admin. Okay, that's done for now. Now we need to gather this information and pass it and publish it first. So to do that, we're gonna make use of isLoggedIn.emit. So we're gonna publish this user. So just like that, we're gonna publish it, and we're gonna subscribe. So whichever component that we are going to work, we're gonna use a subscribe and get this information, get the user information in that component, which is ideally the navbar that we are talking about. Okay, so this bit is done. Okay, this is ideally to be executed only when there is a successful login, but this is just an example to demonstrate our routine. Okay, to the emit method, okay, that you see here rises or publishes an event for $isLoggedIn variable, which then can be subscribed by another component, which is our navbar component, and the target component can consume the value emitted, in this case the user details that you have seen here. Okay, now let's fix few things in our login component class to invoke our login method service. Right, so in our login class, alright, the login method in our login component looks fairly straightforward and it works as expected. Okay, now in our browser we don't have any errors as of now, so let's head straight to our nav component, navbar component ts. So in the navbar component, let's define our login service of login service. This is good. So we have defined our login service and then imported a top of our navbar component page, and in the ng on init lifecycle hook, okay, we shouldn't be using constructor to subscribe to an event. Okay, we need to use only the on init lifecycle hooks. Okay, so this dot login service dot $is logged in, and we need to make use of this variable. We need to subscribe because that's the one which is published from the login service method when a login is occurring. Okay, so subscribe, and we need to fetch the data that we are going to get. So the data. Alright, so let's just do a console for now. I got data in navbar. Let's be a bit informal so that, okay, so once you click the login, we are getting pretty much plenty of error. Cannot set properties of undefined, which is a, alright, the error is due to the case that we have not defined the properties in our user variable, user field actually. So user and user type, finally the role. Silly error. Now we got the answer. I got data in navbar and the data is sent intact. So this works beautifully well. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna modify our navbar component to accept this information and change our navbar to from login to log out. Okay, so to do that, I'm gonna just go to our app component. We did some modification there, right? So in the app component ts, we got both this information and copy paste it over here. So command period to import them, and finally I'm gonna get this information and pass it on to our navbar. So the data, right? No, we don't have event args over here, right? So it's logged in true, and then the the data that has been sent from the login service is over here. So once you do a successful login, if I click the login button, this should change, and there you go, the logout is changed and changes with the name as well. So far what we have learned, this is how we pass data from one component to another component. So one component is the login component, and the another one is the navbar component. So the data passing is between siblings and not parent-child hierarchy. This is how we pass data from one component to another component. So thank you for watching this lecture. If you like it, please give it a like, and if you have any suggestions or comments, do write them below, and finally subscribe to my channel to get the latest updates. Thank you so much.